Hey beauty friends, it's Meredith Roddy from Beadalon and Artistic Wire, and I am so excited for the Michael's class that I'm going to be teaching today. We are doing Jewelry Making 106, making a lariat with the Beadalon knotter tool. So you heard me emphasize 106. So there is Beadalon 101, or jewelry making, I should say, 101, 102, 103, 104, and 105. So we're really doing a series of jewelry making workshops to build on our skills. So if you are just joining me today for the very first time, welcome and thank you so much for joining in this class. If you have been along on the journey, welcome back. But if it is your first time, I would definitely encourage you to go back in the archives of the Michael's community classroom. Let me say that one more time: the Michael's community classroom, and you can see not only all of my jewelry making classes, but jewelry making classes and crafting classes from so many other amazing designers. And I'm so grateful and so honored to be a part of this whole project that Michael's is doing. And I hope that everybody really enjoys the project that we are doing today. So you can see I am wearing my fancy pearls today. And that was by design, that is by reason, because we are going to be learning how to use the Beadalon knotter tool today. So many people have their grandmother's pearls, their fancy pearls, maybe some old pearls, maybe some pearls that you found in an antique shop. The knotter tool makes it really easy for you to be able to restring those pearls. It can get very expensive to go to a professional restringer, to go to a jewelry store and have your pearls restrung. And that was one of the first reasons why the Beadalon knotter tool was developed. However, today we're going to be using some different materials and making a knotted pearl and other bead lariat, which uses spacing in between each of the beads. So it's a little bit of I would say more of an intermediate to maybe dabbling toward the advanced jewelry maker project, but with the right tools and a little bit of practice, I think that we can all make it on our own. So, quick little caveat. You will not be able to finish this whole project along with me today. It is probably a 2.5, maybe even a 3-hour project once you figure out how you're going to do your whole design. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you how to start. Then I'm going to take you through how to do several of the stations. We're going to learn a little bit of new vocabulary, perhaps, along the way. Then I'll show you how to finish it off. But the great thing about this project, no clasps, no hardware, and there are a ton of different ways that you can put these materials together to do your designing. So let's see, I think those are all of the introductory comments that I have. So Stephanie, if you want to go ahead and flip my camera down, I can double check and make sure I have everything well and in frame, and we can get started. So I can see there are a lot of people here. A lot of people are saying hi in the chat room. If you want to go ahead and let me know where you're from, I would love to know where everybody is coming from. And then if you have any questions, just put them in the chat, and Yvette from Beadalon is going to be answering questions. And if there's something that she needs to stop me and ask me to explain things a little bit better, she'll go ahead and do that. All right. So, and it looks like, Stephanie, that there are more people in the waiting room. So I don't know if those people need to be let in again, but just to double check, I'm seeing a note that there are a lot of, okay, so you went ahead and you let them in. Okay, so for all of those people who are just in the waiting room, actually, Stephanie, can you take the front camera back up again really quickly? Because it looks like a lot more people just joined us. So that's fantastic. Welcome to everybody who just came in again from the waiting room. We are making today the knotted lariat necklace using the Beadalon knotter tool. So I think everybody's in here now, and I think now, Steph, you can take me back down again, and we're going to go ahead and get started. So for the materials that we are going to do for this project, and again, it's an intermediate to an advanced project, and we are not going to be able to make the whole thing together today, but I'll show you the materials that you're going to use. So we already talked about the Beadalon knotter tool. We're going to talk a lot about that today. I keep wanting to pick it up and show you how it works, but I want to talk through the materials real quick. You're going to need a little bit of GS Hypo cement or Beadalon bead stringing glue. It's the same type of material. Of course, scissors, we always need scissors when we're working with silk cord. And here are the two different varieties of silk cord that Beadalon has in Michaels. There's one that is a variety pack by size. Size 2 is the smallest. Then we have some size 4s and 6s are the largest in this pack, and this is all white. And then we have, this is actually, you have to pretend like it's a 5-pack, but I took the pink out to make my necklace. So just pretend like there's a pink there also. And these are all size 6s in black, gray, tan, and also in white. So I already pulled out the 6 to make my project, but just so that you know what you're looking for, this is what the silk cord looks like. And it comes on a cord. And the best thing about this silk cord is that it has a needle already attached to it. So let me bring that up nice and close to the camera. Give it a minute to focus. This needle, and you can straighten it out with pliers or with your fingers, but it is already attached to this silk, and it makes it very, very easy to string your beads onto your silk. So let's put our silk aside for just 1 second. I'm going to show what we're making today, right? Everybody saw it from the photo, but this is it live. You can see that there are some tassels dangling off of the ends and a repeated pattern through the whole design. And we're going to talk a little bit about that pattern in just a moment. So now on my left here, let's kind of move this to the side and center this. This is a bead board. Now, I don't know how many people, and I would actually love to know from people who are taking part in this class, who uses a bead board and who does not. I don't always use a bead board, but when I do, it's very, very helpful. You can see all of these different markings here along the outsides, from 0 up and around to, move that down just a scotch, to 17 inches. And laying your design out on a bead board helps you be able to visualize well, first of all, how many beads you're going to need to make your design, but also how your beads are going to look without being strong. So sometimes I'll just go right in and I'll string up the beads, but other times, and especially when I'm doing a design that has different spaces in between it like this, I like to use the bead board to design. So without further ado, let's get started on the project with all of these different materials that we are going to be working with today. So let's see. I know what the beads are that I am going to be working with. So what I like to do is just kind of start playing, right? I'm going to bring them out and kind of lay out what I think my design is going to be. And then I will do that again in each of the spaces to see, A, do I have enough of each of the beads, right, to be able to make my project. Oftentimes I will get so excited about a design and only to find that 7/8 of the way through, I have run out of beads. Sure, that happens to a lot of people out there. And that would actually be an interesting class to kind of talk, or more of like a chat experience. How do we all, how do we account for that when you run out of beads at the end of the project. Personally, I end up just running down to Michael's and getting more beads. But if it's after hours, then I always kind of have to figure out what it is that I want to do. So here we go. And what I would do is, if I was really going to be laying this out, I would do them at either 2 inches, or maybe I want to do it a little bit closer. Maybe I want to do it a little bit further away. And I can really eyeball what my design is going to be. For this, I used about 1.5 inches, not about, exactly 1.5 inches. And the way that I got this, this space right here is the most high-tech and most intricate tool you will ever see. And that is this little piece of straw. Okay, I'm kidding. It is neither high-tech nor intricate. But this little piece of straw that was just haphazardly hanging out up here is actually the last little piece and part of this project that we are going to need. And this straw is about 1.5 inches in distance. So one last thing about the bead board before I move on to the actual knotter tool is it's very good, and we're not doing this in this project, but if you are doing a multi-strand design, you can lay out your strands. And what I like to do is lay them out so that everything comes to a straight line. Everything is lined up at one of the marks, be it the 15, the 18, the 12, whatever it is, it's lined up. And the bead board is a really good way, especially if you're using all different sizes of beads, to be able to figure out what, how many beads you need for your design. So those are just a couple of ways that a bead board can be useful, either by laying out your design in, by spacing, or by a multi-strand design. And there are a bunch of different things that we can talk about as well, but we're going to stay focused on our Lariat with the knotter tool today. So I'm going to move my bead board aside, and I'm going to put my example out just so I can kind of see where I'm going with my whole project. And I'm going to get started with some of the silk. So this is number 6 silk cord. A couple of things that you need to know about the silk, the size 6 silk. Yeah, let's say that five times fast, right? I mentioned the fact that it has a needle that is already attached to it. This is 2 meters, right? So it's 2 meters long. I can usually get, if I'm doing this, this Lariat project, I will use one of these. And it's the perfect length for kind of the perfect length of Lariat. If I am using, if I'm using it to make like a strung knotted design, which, spoiler alert, will be a class coming up in the future, I can usually get 2 necklaces out of this. So that's a really helpful tip to know when you're thinking about designing. I can usually get about 2 16-inch necklaces that are knotted out of this number 6 silk. So anything else I want to say about silk before we unravel it? I don't think so. So I'm going to unravel my silk from the card. And this silk is available from, let's see, at Michael's, you can get it in sizes 2, 4, and 6. But if you need it bigger or smaller, it does exist all the way down to a size 0 and all the way up to a size, I believe, 20. And you can double the silk and all different kinds of things. But you can see when it comes off, it's really kinky, for lack of a better word. There are all these little bends in here. And that, of course, is the silk taking on the bends from that card. But what you need to do before you get started is, we call it stretching the silk, but we're not actually stretching it. What we're doing is we're compressing the twist. Okay, I'm getting a little technical, but I think it's important for people to know. So the way that you do this is you take one in one hand and one in the other, and you gently pull, okay? And you can see, as I'm going along, those bends are coming out. The other way that I really like doing this is I will hook it over a doorknob and then lean back gently, so don't fall. But I find this can be a little rough on my fingers, right? It's a little stretchy on your fingers, but if you hook it right over a doorknob and then just lean back, it takes all of those little bends out, and then also helps take that twist and flatten it, because you can see that it's actually two pieces of silk twisted together. That's how they get it over the needle. So I think we're ready to start our project. Oh my goodness. So the very, very first thing that you want to do is to tie on your dangles. So depending on how many dangles you want, which dangles you want, let's see, I have this nice tassel here. I also have a fun heart locket that I'm going to take out and attach. First, I'm going to put my glasses on. And let's see, I think I'm going to do, let's see what oops, that's not the right tool. What a locket and a tassel looks like on one side. And I know in the instructions, I mentioned starting with these guys first. It does not really matter which toggles you do first. You can see I am opening my jump ring up. I'm just sliding that out. And I think what happens when I do that, I'm not sure I'm gonna love that, but I'm not sure that I'm gonna hate it either. Okay, so now what I need to do is I'm going to snip the end here, and I should be able to, with my needle, just string this on. Easy peasy. And the thing about the knotter tool and the thing about these techniques is we can make this much more complicated. We can make this much more intricate. We can add a lot to it. But for these purposes, all we're gonna do right here is we're just gonna tie a little overhand knot to tie this on, right? Sometimes easiest is best, right? And I will mention that the thing about the silk, and it comes in all different sizes, is the size 6 silk is what I chose for my beads. But if you have beads with bigger holes, you can use a size 8 silk. If you have beads with smaller holes, you could use a size 2 silk. And I'm going to show what that all means and why that is in just a second. All right, so I just tied 3 overhand knots, easy peasy, no big deal. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to seal those knots with a little bit of glue. So just really quickly, and it looks like my glue that I chose might have become victim of a gluing catastrophe. Pro tip, make sure that your glue is gonna open before you start your class. But what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna show you my pro tip anyway. When you are using Hypo cement or the Beadalon bead string glue, don't squeeze it. Because when you squeeze it, what happens is the glue comes out this really, really thin tip and it will get everywhere. What you wanna do is put the glue in your hand and just hold it. And the heat from your hand will allow the glue to start flowing. And then you just want to put a little dab on here. I'm not going to dab my glue now because I don't want that wet glue to get in the way of my project. But what you would do is you would dab the glue on and then you would wait for the glue to dry, and then you would come back to it. Okay, so this is where that straw comes in to place. Okay, and I am going to take my straw, and again, this is about 1.5 inches, this straw, and you are going to just thread that all the way on to the bottom, and then we're gonna leave that for a second because now it's time to talk about the Beadalon knotter tool, right? It's a little bit of a strange looking tool, I guess, if you're seeing it for the very first time. And the way that this guy works is with your thumb, you push up on this part right here. Okay, I'm gonna bring it a little bit closer to the camera so everyone can really see. So this is the Beadalon knotter tool, and you push it up. And what happens when you push it up is this yoke right here pushes against the awl. And this motion is what allows you to get a really tight knot up against your beads. Okay, I hope everybody is still with me. There's a lot, but Yvette has reposted the instructions, and with the knotter tool come really, really good comprehensive instructions as well. But once you see it in motion, you'll be just fine. Okay, so the way that the knotter tool works is you hold, and I'm going to try to talk dominant hand and non-dominant hand. And I'm also going to be doing this as my right hand is my dominant hand. I am right-handed. If you are left-handed, no worries at all. The tool works just the same way. You just have to do everything in reverse, or no, I'm sorry, everything in mirror. And I have taught plenty of people who are left-handed how to knot with a Beadalon knotter tool, so I know that it can be done. So I have my tassel in my right hand and all of the rest of the silk here in my left hand. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to wrap it around 3 fingers. I'm going to flip my hand and I'm going to drop that unit through. Okay, and I'm going to do this a lot of times because it is very, it's very specific. So now I have my knotter tool in my right hand, and you can see I have my name on it because knotter tools tend to walk away in the Beadalon office. And remember, this is my motion right here with my thumb. Also remember that this is very, very sharp. Okay, so we're not going to go sticking our fingers onto the tip of that awl, but it has to be sharp in order to do its job. So I'm going to, moving my hand from left to right, I'm going to pick up that silk thread. So I'm making an X with the knotter tool. So you can see the silk is one side of the X and then the awl is the second side of the X. And now I'm going to now I'm going to take my index finger and I'm going to hold it against that awl, not on top of the awl. Please, nobody touch the top of the awl. We're gonna go right against the awl. And at this point, this finger is holding that thread in place. Stephanie, I'm hearing a little bit of activity on the mic. You might just want to double check and make sure that everybody is muted. So now what I want to do is I want to make sure that my hand is parallel to my table. So I'm not up like this, I'm not over like this, I'm not, I don't know, any other way than just, here's my knotter tool and here's my table, parallel. And then I'm going to take my long side and I'm going to pull straight up, but I'm actually going to pull a little to the side so that you can see what I'm doing. But if I was actually doing it, I would be pulling straight up, just like that, okay? So you want to mute yourself, not the teacher. So if you just mute yourself, then yeah. And Stephanie should be able to as admin, mute everybody. Okay, so now that knot is right against my straw, okay? And it's not going anywhere because I have my finger that's holding it on, okay? Now I'm gonna take that thread and I'm going to put it through the yoke. Okay, so remember the pointy part is the awl, the notched part is the yoke. And this is where that thumb motion comes in. So I'm gonna take my thumb, and this is the tricky part. Whenever I teach a class, there's always one place that's a little bit tricky. And sometimes it's a little more tricky than others, but I like to let everybody know, because if you get through this part, then you've gotten through the tricky part and you've got it, no problem. So I'm going to take my thumb and I'm going to pull. I'm pulling with my right hand. I'm pulling with my left hand. I'm pushing up with my right hand. And then the knot is going to pop off. And it is very small and it's a little bit hidden by the straw right now. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the straw off and you can see my knot is right there. And that's my first knot of my project. Woo! So we can all breathe a sigh of relief. And now I'm going to take that straw off, okay? And I mentioned in the very beginning, this is a little bit of a different way of knotting than a traditional, those are my air quotes, my traditional knotting technique. But I think when you are just starting out, this is a really good way of learning how to use the tool and learning how to make a lariat. So now let me move this back into frame real quick. I have laid out on my bead board my design. So all I need to do is pick up each bead as I'm going along. And that's another reason why the bead board is so great, because now I don't have to think about the beads for my design. All I need to do is pick them up in order and in frame. And I am using one size 11 seed bead, one 4 millimeter, one 4 millimeter, where is my thing? Oh, here we go. Excuse me, one 3 millimeter white glass round. And all of the materials are in the instructions, and I know that Yvette posted them earlier as well. And then one 6 millimeter pink dyed quartzite. And then my favorite, these really cool rhinestone rondels. Is anybody else as excited as I am about how the bead tags come into focus in the frame? It's the little things. So now what I'm doing is that whole bit now becomes a unit, right? So that whole unit I've now moved all the way down against that knot. And because that size 11 seed bead has the whole size of a size 11 seed bead, and I'm using size 6 silk, that bead is not going anywhere. And my whole unit is going to happily stay in between this knot and the knot that I am about to make. So again, if I was using size 11, if I was using size 8 seed beads here, or just the that little glass bead, 3 millimeter, I could use a thicker silk. Or if I were using a pearl that had a much smaller hole, I could use a size 4 silk. So the silk and the bead size hole need to be in cahoots. I don't think cahoots is the right word, but they need to match, so that if this silk was too small, the size 11 seed bead would slip through it. And if it were too big, it just wouldn't look right. There really isn't another way to say it. It just wouldn't look right. It would look disproportionate if it were too big. And if it were too big, then my beads wouldn't even slide onto it, right? So it's a little bit of a weighing game to make sure that your silk and your beads are the right proportion. And on the silk cords, it does say what the diameter of the cord is. So this is 0.7 millimeters or 0.028 inches. So if you knew that your beads had holes that were 1 millimeter, of course, that's going to be way too big of a hole for a number 6 silk. All right, let's get back to knotting. So once again, what we're going to do is wrap that unit around our 3 fingers and drop it through the hole, okay? And then again, with my Beadalon knotter tool, I'm grasping left to right. I'm making sure, because that is pointy and it is sharp, you don't want to stab yourself. I'm going to pick up that silk going in left to right, so I have that X. you always want to check yourself that you have the X. So one side of my X is the silk and the other side of my X is the awl. So now, once again, I don't want to touch the top, right? I just want to rest my hand very firmly, but not owlily, against the awl. And at this point, I can now remove my left hand, okay? And I can even let it drop. So once again, it's funny, I do it just by nature right now, but my tool is going to be parallel to my work surface. It's not up, it's not over, it's not around, it's parallel. And I'm going to pull straight up, okay? Nice hand shot there. I'm gonna pull a little to the side so you can see what I'm doing, but just know pulling straight up is the key to getting a really nice tight knot, okay? So now we're gonna come in here into the yoke. And once again, this is the tricky part. There's always one tricky part, and this is it. With my left hand, I'm pulling gently toward myself at about a 45-degree angle. And I'm going to take my thumb and I'm going to push up on the tool. So you can see, if I have my tassel a little bit untangled, that now that unit is securely securely nestled in between those two knots. So I have a knot, then I have my size 11, my 3mm, my 6mm, my Rondel, and then on the other side. And this unit can be anything you want it to be. It can be any color you want it to be. It could be just one bead. It could be a large bead. It could be 10 seed beads, but you treat it as a unit. And now we are ready to make another unit. Whew, we're getting there. We are getting there. So I'm going to come back to my needle, which is at the front of my design. And I am going to thread my straw on again. And you could use a coffee stir, you could use a straw. There are special tools designed to do this, but when we're first learning, I want you to love the technique and understand how to use the knotter tool, and then we can next level it. So I'm going to show that knot one last time. And okay, I'm not going to overcomplicate things. Around 3 fingers and through. And it can get a little bit fiddly, but it's not so fiddly. So you drop down all of the beaded units, and we're going to, again, pick up from left to right, hold the awl with our finger, pull straight up. And what happens when you have this straw here is it's building in that space in between each of the units. So you don't need to do this super tight. You don't want to kind of crinkle up the straw. You just want to make sure that you're using the straw kind of as a measuring device, really, to put that space in between. So let's see if we can get really close up to do this next part. So now the silk comes into the yoke, and I can let go of here. And as I'm doing that, I'm going to pull toward myself, and I'm going to push up, and now I have another knot. So, and I like this technique also. It's very meditative, and you kind of get into the rhythm of it. So now I'm going to string on my next unit. So one size 11, one size 3. And as I'm doing this, I always tell people when I'm teaching how to use the knotter tool that when you're first learning how to do it, you are going to need to make 4 full necklaces before you get it. It's kind of one of those rules, tried and true. So the first one you'll do will be kind of a mess. You will skip knots, you'll double knot, you'll have big spaces or little spaces in between your beads. It's not going to work out. The second one that you do is going to be pretty good. there'll probably be a couple loose beads here and there, but you're going to be doing a lot better. The third full necklace that you do, and I'm talking a full necklace 16 inches. The third one is going to be perfect, but you're going to make one mistake. And then by the fourth one you do, you're going to get it no problem. So just keep that in the back of your mind as you're thinking about the knotting and about using the Beadalon knotter tool. It really takes about 4 full times of practice to be able to do it. Yes. So Lisa, I am going to do I'm going to do this one slow again. And then I think I might start going up to speed just so that you can see when you're using the tool, really how fast it can be. So once again, I'm going to come way up to the top, and we're not going to have that straw in the way this time. So I'm wrapping from, let's see, from front to back and around, and then I'm dropping everything through that little hole that I made. So really, at the simplest level, I'm tying the beginning of an overhand knot, if that helps you, if it helps you think about it. And the straw does slide over the smaller knots, but it doesn't matter because it's the same distance and the same amount of slide each time. So once again, I'm going to pick up coming from left to right. So I have my X. One side of the X is my silk. The other side of my X is the awl. And again, I have my tool parallel to my workspace, not down, not tipped down, not tipped to the side, parallel and going straight up. And at this point, I can release my left hand, and I'm going to pull straight up. That straight up part is what makes sure that that knot is tight against the bead. So sometimes the inclination is to not pull it straight up, maybe to pull it to the side or pull it down, but by pulling it straight up, that tightens everything up against the awl. And if it's not tight up against the awl, don't take it off of the awl. Make sure that you, step away if you need to. But whatever you do, just make sure that you get that knot nice and tight up against the awl. And then what you're going to do is put the silk through the yoke. And then I'm going to show this angle so you can really see what's happening here. Because when you push up on the tool, the act of pushing up tightens that knot against the yoke, so it comes right up tight to those beads. Okay, so let's do it one more time slowly, and then we're going to bring it up to speed. And then we'll just kind of show the ending of the other side as well. So all this is doing, this straw, and it will come over those 2 beads, but each time it is making a space, it's making the space the same way. And that way is by hugging the 6mm round bead, okay? So once again, we're wrapping it around our hands, and then everything, let's try that so that you guys can see it too, right? Not just me. Wrapping it around our hands and through that loop, okay? I'm going to take my tool, left to right, pick it up, pull it in place with my fingers, pull straight up through the yoke, and I'm going to show this part really, really tight again. And push it up. And so that knot is now right where it needs to be the exact same space as the previous knot. So we pull this off. And I have one last unit all pre-made over here. So I'm going to start with my size 11. And I joke a little bit about that 4 necklace technique, but it really does work. And I think that the knotter tool is something that is worth an investment, not only an investment in the tool to be able to knot between your beads, but an investment in time. because there are so many different ways that you can use knots between beads. And the knotter tool, you can use it with more materials than just silk. I use it with Beadalon, the Texture 10 polyester thread. I use it with leather. I've used it with like parachute cord. What else could you use it with? Like satin rat tail cord. I mean, there's so many things that you can knot with this. So Cynthia, Cynthia asks, if you're going a normal, comfortable speed, how long would it take to make a complete project? That is a fantastic question. And I'm going to show this last knot, and then I'm going to talk to that a little bit. So one last time, around and through. And each time this gets a little bit longer, the through is a little fussier, but it's really no big deal. You just want to make sure that everything comes through that knot. You pick up from left to right, make sure you have that X, pull straight up, and bop it off. So for this project, it would probably take me about, I don't know, an hour or so, but the majority of that time is going to be stringing up the beads. Because what you will see is, and what I'm going to do, actually, I'm going to cut off this part with a knot. Well, no, I'm going to cut this part off, and I'm going to show everybody how fast you can actually knot with the knotter tool. Now, what I'm doing first, I just want to show everybody that I did a quick knot in the end, and I pushed my bead up against it to double check. This is how you can check and see if your silk and your beads are jiving, if they're in sync. So if the bead does not slip over that knot, then you've got the right silk. If your bead does not string onto the silk, your silk is too big. And if it slips over that knot, then your silk is too small. So I'm just gonna string up a couple of beads really, really quickly. And then I wanna show everybody how fast this technique is with the Beadalon knotter tool. So you can spend a lot of time on designing your piece, which is really where most of the time in this particular design comes from, is the designing and the stringing on the beads. But if I just have some beads here, what I'm going to do is I'm going to show everybody how fast this can be. Okay, so I'm going to go. And the great thing about the knotter tool when you're doing it just like this is you're going to pre-string your beads. So it's going to end up, the stringing of the beads is going to take as long as the stringing of the beads takes. And then this part can actually be done in as fast as, 5 or 6 minutes, depending on how fast you are with the tool. So you can see that the tool makes it really, really fast to get super tight knots in between each of your beads. And sometimes if you do mess up, sometimes if the odds are in your favor, you can undo the knot, but it is not a fun or easy task. So I do not recommend messing up, because you end up just kind of shredding your silk, because it's silk, it's a natural material, right? So I sped it up. I'm going to slow it back down again, and then we're going to get to finishing. So the key to the knotting with a knotter tool, and just the same as we were showing with the Lariat with the stations, is you're going to take your bead and press it down against that knot, right? And then wrap it around 3 fingers drop it through the center of that knot, and pick up from left to right. So you have that little X there. Hold on to the awl with your finger. Let everything go. Pull straight up. Again, that straight up is really, really important, both with the Lariat technique, but also with just straight up knotting of the beads. Bring it through the yoke. And then as you're giving gentle pressure with your left hand pulling, you're also pushing up with your right thumb so that it pops off. So you can do it super fast, you can do it super slow, whatever works for you, but using the knotter tool gives you really, really nice tight knots in between your beads. So if you have your grandmother's pearls that you need to restring, this is definitely the tool for you. Okay, so I have a little sample that I made up, just kind of playing around with the technique and kind of making sure that I like the spacing, making sure that I liked the colors. You can see I actually started with different colors of seed beads, but I decided I kind of liked keeping the pink theme. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to use this as a way of showing how to finish off the other side, which is just as easy. I'm going to bring my camera down just a little bit on this. Just as easy as the starting side, right? So over here, we started just by tying an overhand knot, putting a little bit of glue, and then after that glue dries, you can come back and snip that off, and it looks just kind of like that, right? There's a little fray there. That doesn't bother me. If that bothers you, you can either glue it down a little bit more or just give it a little snippy snip, a little haircut. So same thing, and if you want it to be, mine over here is a little bit shorter, you can see, than this one, and I kind of liked that just as a technique, but if you want it to be the exact same size, you would go ahead and use your straw again to do it, and you can either put your straw down or you can just kind of eyeball it with the straw, and that's what I'm going to do. I'm just going to kind of eyeball it. And actually, I take that back. I am just going to eyeball it. But instead of tying another knot, which you can certainly do if you would like, I'm just going to go ahead and grab another tassel. I'm going to have matching tassels in style, not in color, which is kind of fun, right? To have one kind of tassel on one side and one different color on the other side. And I'm just going to string it on, right? Easy peasy. When we're doing an easy project, we could make this more complicated if we wanted to, but why make it more complicated when you can do it easier, right? So let's see how far down I can get my camera and still have it in focus. That's pretty good, right, guys? All right. So now all I'm going to do is I'm going to do that very same knot, right? I'm going to tie. I'm working with a big old piece of silk over here, but I'm going to come over and I'm going to tie an overhand knot. Let's see if I can do this with all of this extra silk. Oh my gosh. But that's the great thing, is because I have all of this extra silk and the needle is still on the needle end, I can make another necklace, right? And somebody is asking, how long should the Lariat be? That's a really good question. I mean, the easiest answer or the most difficult answer is as long as you want it to be. I will measure the one that I did as the example and show you how it lays on my body. You might want yours to be a little longer. You might want yours to be a little shorter. And once again, after I've tied my overhand knot, and I might tie it once more for good luck, I'm going to come in. Oh, so sorry about that. Let's see if that's what happens when you get in so close. With my GS Hypo cement or my Beadalon bead string and glue, and I'm going to warm it in my hand. I'm going to allow just a little dab to flow out, and I'm going to seal that knot. Wait for it to dry, and then trim the end. I sometimes can get a little overzealous and want to trim it and be done before my glue dries. But it's always a good idea to go make yourself a cup of coffee, go for a walk, come back the next day, and then trim your knot. So I think actually, Stephanie, if you want to go ahead and take the front camera again, I'm going to go ahead and measure the lariat that I had made using my bead board. And it looks like it is about 26 times 2 inches. So what is that, 52 inches, right? And that is a nice length for me, okay? You can double it and wear it like this, kind of choker down style. And so kind of choker down style, or the way that I really like, I can now get it off, right? The way that I like to do it sometimes is like this, and then around once, and then over. That's kind of my preferred way of the choker. So you can kind of see how long that is on me, but depending on your preference, your style, the neckline of your outfit, you might choose to make yours longer or shorter. But right, did I do the math right? 26 inches times 2, 26, 52, right? I think so. Yes, okay, thank you for Cynthia for letting me know. It's just a little warm down here in the studio now. So that is my my demonstration of the lariat with the Beadalon knotter tool. That, now that I have reached to the end, are there any questions that I might have glossed over? Anything that I might have forgotten that I should mention about the knotter tool, about silk, about technique?
Nope, everybody seems to be good. They could rewatch the video tomorrow through the Michaels website. Okay, perfect. Yes. So that makes a very good point. So this video will be posted either tomorrow or within a day or two on the Michaels Community Class website. So you can go back and learn again with me. Remember, 4 times, okay? The first time will be kind of a mess, and that's okay. The second time will be much, much better, but there'll still be some wiggly beads here and there. The third time will be almost perfect, but you will make one mistake. And then after the 4th necklace that you have knotted using the Beadalon knotter tool, you will have gotten it. And it's pretty airtight, my theory on knotting and learning how to use the Beadalon knotter tool. So next Wednesday will be my next class for the Michaels Community Classroom, featuring the Beadalon products that are in Michaels. I hope that you will come back and join me for that class. And thank you, as always, so much for participating and for hanging out with me today. I really appreciate it. And I will look forward to seeing you next time. And also thank you so much to Michaels for allowing me to teach what I love to you, and hopefully advancing your skills and maybe creating a couple new beaders out there as well. So that's it for me today. Until next time, next Wednesday at 1 o'clock Eastern Time, 12 o'clock Central Time. Happy beading.